minorities, and when you're less educated, you're less likely to vote, and I think that that's what makes it so difficult for people of color to vote.
Seek help. Medical professionals are everywhere. Mental health is a priority.
All right, guys, so I got to do one of these old school reaction videos that I feel like I don't do as much on my channel as I used to, which is these reactions to these ignorant liberals on the street, okay, who, you know, for people who claim that they're not racist, they sure do love their stereotypes, especially about black folks, okay, except they believe that their stereotype is justified because their stereotype is grounded in social justice. And I want to react to it because as a black person, it's super cringe to see white liberals pretend that black people are victims and to stereotype black people as victims. But then again, it goes to show you that the liberal propaganda, the liberal brainwashing is very effective, right? And videos like this are a reflection of our society, okay? And the people that vote for our leaders in our society, which, you know, understandably, you can see why we have somebody like Joe Biden in office, is because you have people like this who tend to vote for people like Joe Biden. Again, it all makes sense when you figure out that, hey, as a society, we're kind of responsible for the current situation that we are in, okay? But I want to go ahead and get into this. But first, we got to give a shout out to Man vs. Street, who recorded this video, and the sponsor of this video, Fire Pit Mini by Prepper's Peak. Shockingly, studies show that most people believe that they can survive for 2 weeks in the wilderness, but studies show that most people can't even spark a fire. The survey of 2,000 Americans shows that many are confident in their ability to survive in the wild. However, only 17% are very confident in their ability to start a fire just with flint. And that is why tens of thousands are relying on the Fire Pit Mini in order to start their fires outdoors. The Fire Pit Mini stove grants anybody the ability to start fires, boil water, and cook food from virtually anywhere with only kindling and leaves as fuel. You can spend hours spinning sticks and running through your matches in order to try to start a fire to cook your food and to stay warm. But the Fire Pit Mini stove is engineered to give you an effective, reliable, and simple way to start a robust fire with little smoke in any condition and without any hassle. The Fire Pit Stove Mini is the most effective choice for camping, hunting, traveling, road trips, power outages, emergencies, and more. It can be the critical difference between life or death in a crisis. Lightweight and portable, give the gift of warmth this holiday season by simply placing your order now to get 25% off, along with many other free bonuses like access to the Prepper's Peak exclusive newsletter, free express shipping, and last but not least, 100% lifetime guarantee. Hurry now before they sell out by going to firepitmini.com. That's firepitmini.com and use promo code HOLIDAY for 25% off.
Do you think voter ID laws are racist?
I think so.
Most of the motivation behind them being put into place is rooted in racism.
I think voter ID laws are inherently discriminatory. When you look, the vast majority of people who do not currently have IDs are people of color.
Do you have an ID?
Yeah, but does that actually stop so-called people of color from voting? And what evidence do you have of that, right? Because the main place that they love to use as an example for voter ID laws being racist is Georgia. But in Georgia, there's been more voter turnout than literally ever before, right? There's been a record amount of voters, black voters specifically, in states like Georgia, despite Georgia passing the so-called discriminatory voter ID laws. Again, it's amazing how that works. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If the Republicans and their intent in regards to passing these election integrity laws is truly to suppress people from voting or to disincentivize people from voting, they're doing a terrible job at it. In fact, they should stop passing these laws, right? If that is the actual intent. But the real intent is actually not to, disincentivize people from voting. It really is actually for election integrity. But yeah, this is something that they can't comprehend because they've been brainwashed by MSNBC to believe that any law that the GOP passed has to be rooted in racism. Some way, somehow, is rooted in racism or hate or bigotry, instead of evaluating the law on its own merits, right? Like, for example, the fact that despite the passing of these laws, voter turnout increased, okay, less votes were suppressed. Instead of that, they just say, well, it's racist because we disagree with it. Again, it's fascinating stuff. But again, it's funny how none of these people have anything to say about Joe Biden suppressing a whole state worth of black voters down in Florida. Not just Florida, but also North Carolina and Tennessee as well, because they're also states that are leaving Biden's Democrat opponents off the ballot and basically allowing Joe Biden to win by default.
Absolutely.
Can you show us?
Yeah.
What do you have to say to all the people that say black Americans can't get voter ID?
I don't even know why they would say that. We can get the same things that every other American can get. That doesn't even make sense to me.
Because they think you're dumb, right? They think you're stupid. Okay, this is what they think. This is what they believe. They believe that you are not intelligent enough as a black person to get an ID to go vote. Therefore, they try to use your lack of intelligence or your perceived lack of intelligence, the stereotype that black people are lacking intelligence, as a way to virtue signal and to gain their own sense of moral superiority and clout, right? That is what this is all about. This is what they do, right? They're essentially just using black people and these negative stereotypes in order to promote themselves and to make themselves feel better about themselves.
Republicans are just trying to make it really fucking hard for minorities to vote.
Why do they do that?
Because they hate black people. They fucking hate black people and they're racist.
The black population is like historically much more financially like disadvantaged.
Today we can sometimes see that sort of continuation of racism through our voting system in like education and things like that. And typically people who are less educated are less likely to vote.
You're disproportionately.
So again, black people are less educated, right? This is what she's implying, which could be true. But again, can we get to the root of the reason why black people tend to be lacking in education? Right? It's not because of funding to schools or anything like that. It's because of culture, but also because of these failing Democrat-run schools. These schools run by teachers unions. But yet these people have nothing to say about that. All they want to do is boohoo, whine, and cry racism. But when you ask them for a solution, they have nothing outside of spend more money. Well, just throw money at the problem, right? When we've been throwing money at the problem for literally decades, and things have gotten worse, okay? Things got worse, not better.
Making people who don't have IDs, which are usually people of color, have to go out and pay to vote, which is going to disencourage a lot of those people from voting.
Do you have an ID?
I do,
Can you show us your ID?
for sure.
What would you say to all the people that say black Americans can't get voter ID?
Seek help. I mean, in America, the legacy of white supremacy, of perpetuating negative stereotypes for black and brown bodies, that's why they would think like that, but it's 2023, man, almost 2024.
Amazing, right? Even the wokest among us, okay? Even the wokest among us can see the racism of the white liberal, right? In the sense that she can say, you know what? I'm woke, okay? But I could obviously see that white people who believed I'm a victim by default, right? Or believe I'm too dumb to get an ID, maybe those people are racist too, right? Even though, again, their racism is it's a function of them thinking that, oh, well, I'm trying to help black people and I'm trying to, basically be an ally or whatever, right? But again, them being an ally really is them putting you down. Them saying that, hey, I'm more superior to you, I'm smarter than you, I have more privilege than you, I have more advantages than you. Therefore, you should be coddled and you should allow me to use you for my own political gain, right? That's what it's really all about.
It's time to seek help for that.
So do you think voter ID laws suppress the African American vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
They might like require like a specific type of ID, like when I had to get a new passport, it was like over $100. So that definitely also like roots out the lower classes, like in general.
They're not going to want to vote if they have to go spend all that money to be able to do so.
A lot of minorities are suffering from poverty. When you make people pay money to get IDs, a lot of times people just won't vote. They won't think it's worth it. They don't have the extra money to spend,
If you don't have enough money to get an ID, you have a lot of problems in life, right? Maybe you shouldn't vote, right? I'm just saying, again, it might sound controversial, but if you do not have enough money to afford an ID, I think that you have bigger priorities in your life that you need to take care of outside of voting, right? I'm just saying, I personally think that voting should be something that is not at the top of your priorities, right? The top of your priorities should be, I don't know, getting a job, okay? And, trying to make more money and, trying to get yourself to a point where you could at least do the basics in life, okay? Because yes, your vote does matter, especially when it comes to local and state elections in regards to tax rates, things that the county pays for, resources, public services, whatever. Yeah, obviously that matters. But, again, you need to be able to at least do the basics, right? In terms of functioning as a human being, okay, before you can vote, in my opinion. And getting an ID, I don't think that is too much to ask for, right? In fact, you can't do anything without an ID, right? You can't catch a flight without an ID, okay? There's so many things that you can't do without an ID. And for whatever reason, these people really do believe that it is discriminatory against black people to require you to have an ID to vote. It blows my mind. It really does.
Yeah, they're not going to put like the couple dollars that they have into voting for somebody who's probably not even going to help them out.
Do you have an ID?
Yes, I do.
Can you show us your ID? Perfect. What do you have to say to all the people that say that black Americans can't get voter ID?
Well, I think it's pretty stupid. Like we're in a country where all of us are majority educated and we have the resources at our hands and our disposal to easily find these things. So I think anybody saying that is just dumb. Like that's a really ignorant and stupid thing to say.
Why do you think it's so much harder for black Americans to obtain voter ID?
It's generally the history of racism. Like we say we fixed it, but the system was basically built from the ground up in racism.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Yes, I do.
Why?
In the past, we've seen, African Americans being given like tests that have nothing to do with what voting is about, just in order to obtain a voting license or voter identification. So I think that that's something that we're still seeing remnants of today.
What do you
see? But again, where is your evidence? Evidence is not you saying, well, back in the past, they used to do something that was similar to this. So therefore, that means that it must be discriminatory, right? When, again, where is the evidence? Okay, give me some numbers, right? No Democrat can answer this. I mean, again, these are college students. So I really don't expect too much out of them. But it's almost like, even if you ask some of these Democrats on television in the mainstream media that are boohoo-whining and crying about voter suppression, how many African Americans their votes are being suppressed? How many people are not able to vote because of GOP voting laws? None of them can give you a straight answer. None of them can give you a straight answer. But they swore up and down that the African American vote is being suppressed, despite the fact that voter turnout is at a record high, okay? Now, I guess some people may say, well, voter turnout and voter suppression are two different things. You can suppress the vote while turnout is high, I guess. But I guess the argument is essentially that the suppression is not nearly enough to where it even affects or even demotivates people or disincentivizes people from voting. Like there's no evidence that you're actually disincentivizing people from voting or that you're keeping people from voting if people are voting more than ever, right? You always hear the 2020 election was the largest turnout ever, right? But also at the same time, you keep hearing about all this voter suppression, but yet the turnout continues to be the largest ever. It just doesn't make sense.
You have to say to all the people that say black Americans can't get voter ID?
I say it's really a lie. It's all on really the person. If the person really want to get their ID, they can go get it. It's nothing really stopping them.
Why do you think it's harder for black Americans to obtain voter ID?
Well, it's a class issue, and because of systemic racism, it's usually people of color, so black Americans, who are at the bottom of the socioeconomic classes, which means that they will have the most trouble like having to pay to go get voter ID law or voter IDs.
You motherfuckers racist as hell. Why the fuck wouldn't black people have that? What's the difference between us and you?
Do you think it's harder for black Americans?
They think you're dumber, right? That's the difference. They think you're stupid. They don't think that you're smart enough. They don't think that you can make enough money. They think that you're poor. They think that you're just unequipped to do the basics in life, right? And you need them. You need them to help you out, okay? You got to be dependent on them, right? This is what they believe.
Americans to sign up online to get their voter ID?
Harder, not necessarily, but less likely, yes.
Why?
In underfunded communities due to, redlining and gerrymandering, we see that there's lower education in those specific areas, which have a high amount of, minorities. And when you're less educated, you're less likely to vote. And I think that that's what makes it so difficult for people of color to vote.
Seek help.
Yeah, seek help. Lord forbid any black person take responsibility or accountability for their life outcomes, right? Like, for example, hey, why is it that you always want to point at so-called systemic racism for the reason why black people are not performing well in schools, right? Why you always want to look at that? Why can't you just look at the individual parent, the individual family, and point the blame at them, right? Point the finger at them, because they're the ones that are responsible for educating their kids, for making sure that they're learning what they're supposed to learn, that they're doing their homework. It's always at the system, and everything is the system's fault. It's never the fault of the individual. The individual is never held accountable. It's amazing.
Medical professionals are everywhere. Mental health is a priority. And yeah.
Even the woke black people getting tired of it, right? Again, the jig is up, right? It's bad even the wokes. The wokes are like, you people need help, right? You think black people are too dumb and too poor to get IDs? It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.